Hey friends, Mr. Stevey here, and welcome to a special episode of Mr. Stevey Meditates. Usually I share mindfulness exercises that help you learn better so you can feel better. But today I have the pleasure of interviewing the co-founder of Modern Marimba, a Florida-based performing arts organization that's hosting a very special outdoor concert called Mindfulness in Music. This free concert takes place at 3 p.m. Saturday, December 19th at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park in Sarasota's historical Newtown neighborhood. Mindfulness in Music is a unique acoustic experience that blends meditation with music to address racism and gun violence. Performers include musicians John Shaw and Tihda Vongkoth, and me. I'll lead guided meditations between the music pieces to help listeners process the musical content. Donations from the concert benefit the Newtown Nation, the Newtown Farmers Market, Streets of Paradise Incorporated, and Modern Marimba. So let's find out more about this important event from Tihda Vongkoth. Hi Tihda, thanks for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming event.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure, and I'm so glad that we met through Facebook on the Support Black Businesses Facebook group, and how this has all come together organically. It's been really cool. So we are in partnership with the Newtown Nation, and they manage the Newtown Farmers Market. And we are also going to be collecting donations for Streets of Paradise. And they're a nonprofit and mutual aid group. And they're looking for household items, kitchen utensils, and all that kind of stuff to help people move in and live independently.
Start with the very beginning. What is Modern Marimba?
So Modern Marimba is the legal side of it. We are a nonprofit organization, but it's been a movement. It's become a movement, really, to have equality and justice in music through the marimba, which is actually behind me. It's the instrument behind me. And its roots are all over the world, but we mainly know of the marimba through Africa, through the jil, which is kind of like a xylophone. And this marimba is, I guess, the industrial modern marimba. And there's so much repertoire. And I think out of many of the westernized instruments, it really is the most decolonized, if that could be a term that I would use, because everybody around the world is playing it, and it has really grown in terms of repertoire, players, all that kind of stuff in the modern era last 50, 60 years. It's just really exploded. Mm-hmm. So it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting instrument for me. And I just love the sound, and I love the people that I've met through it.
How did you get interested in playing music? Talk to me about the roots of that and how that intertwines with your desire to address social issues through it.
Yeah, so like everybody listened to music growing up. I did. My parents weren't musical, but we listened to a lot of singers, and I just love music. And my mom got me a piano when I was maybe 7 or 8, and a book, and I just taught myself how to read the notes. And my mom owned a restaurant, and she hired a lot of young people to work at the restaurant. And one of her workers was a music student at USF, a singer, and they taught me a lot about music and helped me figure out the piano, and it just grew from there. But I really fell in love with percussion and the marimba because it was just really fun. Mm-hmm. It's easy to you just pick up a mallet and you start, right? The technique is a lot more advanced than that, but you can get going fairly quickly. And I just started really formally, I guess, in middle school with middle school band. And I started studying with an orchestral teacher, the members of the Florida Orchestra in St. Pete. And I'm from St. Pete. Awesome. And then from there, it was just youth orchestra, getting involved in solo and ensemble, playing in all-state groups, and then doing that in college, going to all kinds of music festivals, around the U.S. and started working professionally.
That's Where awesome. Did the intersection of music and social causes, when did that happen for you, or has that always been part of it?
I think it's always been part of it. It wasn't until like I started working that I started realizing what was happening to me through my own experiences because my education in music is so Western and it only focused on like the orchestral side, really. And I was having a hard time finding work. The audition process for orchestras is like very competitive, and not really understanding why I wasn't getting opportunities that others were having. And that's when I was like, oh, this is tied to racism, all kinds of, stuff. Not unequal representation of women in the arts, particularly in percussion, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, once I opened Pandora's box, I was like, oh, well, this makes sense. This is why things are the way that they are for me.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the feelings that you had regarding this realization? Was it something that happened slowly over time, or was it something that kind of hit you like a ton of bricks in one moment?
Everything, yeah, that both. Like it happened, over time. It's like, oh, okay, I get it, and it's like frustrating because it's like, wow, there's nothing I can do about this, and like it impacted my friendships. It impacted my relationship with my mentors, or the people I thought were my mentors. And it like a lot of frustration and anger, and I turned to meditation and yoga and just spiritual practices to help understand what was going on. And it's just like, and age, experience, you learn how to deal with life, and that those are just like the things that I have to deal with. And there are so many other people that are in those same situations without resources to really understand what's going on here. Like the lack of education about these things at a young age really impacted me, and I'm so glad that I was able to learn about it. And of course, what happened this summer was like I was like, okay, like I'm ready to go into this 100% because it's the right thing to do. This really needs to happen, and lots of doors started opening, where it's like there's a lot of movement towards social justice and equality.
So I don't want to kind of skip over. Modern Marimba's mission. But if there's some way that we can kind of talk about how the mission seems to have woven into some of the events that happened this summer, it seems like they're almost inseparable.
Yeah, because I just wanted to play music that I really love, and a lot of the music that I love was written by BIPOC composers, LGBTQ composers, disabled composer women, and it's like it was always like, oh, it's a special thing, It's like, no, it's not. It's just music. And after the Black Lives Matter movement really took off, and as you know, that started in Florida, and I remember when that happened with Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin.
Yeah. It was just like, okay, our mission is very focused, and like let's put this together. And it wasn't until I met you and we started talking, and there was like one video that you had about just forgiveness, and that just really hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was amazing. And I don't know how it happened, but it just seemed to tie together, that the concentration that one has to have in performing music and listening to music, how to listen so that you actually change. All of that stuff just made sense to me. And the music that I was listening to, it just hit me. It's like we need to perform this music. It's very relevant, and it helps heal, if not bring awareness to what's happening with anti-Black racism.
Let me ask that. What do you want to accomplish with this event? What are you hoping happens for folks that are thinking about going or gonna go? What do you want to tell them before they head out?
Just show up. That's really all you have to do is show up. That's like the hardest part, right? We're in a pandemic. People are nervous about going outside. It's an MLK Park. Maybe a lot of white folks have never been there before. They don't know what to expect. So just show up, and and be open-minded. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen for people, but I know for me, doing this is going to be extremely healing for me to be able to put this together with you, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it brings awareness to Newtown, the farmers market, the ladies who run it. They're great. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like it's like a undiscovered treasure for probably a lot of white folks.
Absolutely. And a lot of folks, and a lot of brown folks, black folks too. I went there. You introduced me, to the folks down there in Newtown, because I hadn't been out there in a minute, and to find out what was going on.
Yeah, and I know they were in a different location, and they just moved to as well. I think less than a year ago, or maybe a year ago, to MLK Park, and it's just such a pretty park.
If we can slide a little bit into, I know we talked a little bit about the music. If you want to get into a little bit of that, like what pieces people can expect to hear, and maybe a little bit of the background of the pieces, if you want to get into that.
Sure. I mean, so whenever we go to concerts, it's like music, 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 and there's like no space, for like what just happened. Like, can I process this? So like, I would really, really, really want to like have that experience, because I've never had that experience. Or on the other side, you go to a meditation thing and maybe there's music in the background, right?
Wow. Yes.
And it's like, let's like do this. Let's have have meditation, and let's have music, and like let's actually have the two interact.
Yes. That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, and so the music that we're going to be playing is I try to have like an arc of sound and complexity, from beginning to end. And just like I practice a lot of yoga, I think of it in the same way, and how people also like do storytelling and all that kind of stuff. So the main piece I think that is really important for this concert is a piece by Yaz Lancaster called Disarmed, for two percussionists. And it's scored for two vibraphones, steel pan, bass drum, and electronics. And this piece addresses gun violence in the Black community, and just the community, in our life of living in the United States, and also like mass gun violence, which is also an issue.
Why is meditation important, and how can it be a tool to address issues like racism? I mean, how can somebody sitting there silently makes any kind of impact on some of these deep topics that we're talking about from your perspective?
That's a good question. Creating space is so important. And for me, meditation has been self-defense in a lot of ways, because living in the society that is the United States, we're constantly bombarded with this message of, work, 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 do, win, 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 winners and losers.
Yeah.
And like the whole cultural thing is just, it's not healthy. So mindfulness, meditation, creating space is self-defense for me, at least, and self-care, and getting to liberation of the self. But it's like these little tiny droplets make a difference, because I think we've lost sense of our relationship to others, but that doesn't start until you have a relationship with yourself. And for me, I'm a big yoga practitioner these days, and it's like getting to know your body, not just like on a oh, here 5 fingers, but like understanding the sensations and observing those sensations, and having a quiet space to be able to have that focused attention moment after moment after moment, and linking those moments together. And I think if we can bring that kind of awareness, compassion to ourselves, it is going to naturally happen when we interact with anybody, anything. And I think that is a catalyst for change. Last year was our first season, and because of COVID, it got cut short. So like we had one concert. The second concert got canceled. It was supposed to be at WSLR, Fogartyville. And then our third concert was a live stream. So it's just like, this is our second season. But the second concert we're going to do is March 13th. It's a youth concert.
Yes.
And it's just a great, diverse for lack of a better word. I mean, it's a diverse mix of music that is geared towards children, young people who are, maybe just starting out on marimba. And a lot of times in the marimba world, we hear a lot of students playing pieces, but it's rare that you hear professionals play pieces geared towards, maybe beginners or intermediate students. So it's really just a celebration of that. Some Disney stuff, and music by composers that we've commissioned. There's another part of Modern Marimba, not just the concert season and the interviews that maybe some people have seen on the Facebook page, but also the educational part. So, in normal times, I do a lot of master classes in the public schools, and a large part of what's happening in the music world is to include pieces by composers that are like not white and male. So we've done a lot of commissioning, and we hope to do a lot more of that. And that music hopefully will be played by students, because it's a huge thing to like play a piece and it's like, oh, cool, I totally dig this. And it's not like some of the stuff that I grew up having to play.
Right.
I think some people are starting to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. I know I'm getting used to it. I know I'm getting used to, on many levels, whether it's, addressing these social issues, whether it's the virus, whatever. All of us are making some significant sacrifices and changes to cope. So I just, like I said, on so many levels, it's such a special and unique event. I mean, we're talking about so many different things. We're post-election here, with the post-election drama that's going on. I mean, when we started talking about this, nobody had voted. We were in the throes of the election and all of that. And even though it feels like some of it is kind of withering, some of that angst is withering away. It's still there. It's still very much there. And
and we haven't like processed. We need to like grieve and mourn and like do this together, because like we're never going to move past these deep seated issues about our country, how it started, how it got to be where it is, and the generations of people who have suffered because of the government
trauma. Some of these topics, and I know me and you tried to weave into this thing, but I know I had to kind of step back and listen, kind of be reminded about something that me and you said early in the process, which is we're not going to answer all the questions, in this. I know when we were molding the program, you definitely grounded me in us talking, having that part of the conversation. Yeah, we're not going to answer everything, but we're sure as heck going to try to get into these deeper topics. So is there as we're talking, is there, I know I've asked this in a different way, and I want to ask it again, is why is this important? Why should people go? Why is this important?
Path. And it's something that I've wanted to do. I'm sure there are others who have felt this way and have been looking for that. So for those who are looking for that and want to experience something and who are ready for it, it's here. So I don't want to try to convince anyone, because maybe they're just not ready for that. But in order for us to move forward as a community, these things, need to happen. And it should be a natural form of life. We should always remember, the past, the true past, the traumas that happen. We should always be healing, because why not? There's no end point. Like, oh, we're over that. No, it's like, this is why we remind ourselves so that doesn't happen again. And we know where we've come from.
Virus still. We're having this in one of our most historically Black neighborhoods in Sarasota, speaking to these issues. Could you talk a little bit to the significance of that?
Yeah, the history of the United States, you can see it happening in Sarasota, and Newtown is a part of that story. And it's an incredibly resilient community. And I'm honored that they allowed us to come in and bring this message to this area. I was recommended to contact Valerie, who's in charge of the Newtown Nation, because she wanted to have music about Black history. And I was like, oh, great. We just have this commission from Stefan. This will be great. So I asked her, and she's like, I sent her, the music by Yaz Lancaster and Stefan, and like some of the other pieces that I've wanted to perform. She's like, yeah, go for it. So It was really that easy. And I went to meet her at the Newtown Farmers Market, and it was really cool and I try to go almost every week, but I love seeing what everybody has, and get some vegetables, support, and the fact that like the Danette is the other manager, two black women
Yes.
running this thing. It's like I really want to support what they're doing in any way that I can.
You're really awesome. I'm no joke. I mean, you really are. They're really awesome, and the fact that you're right. I mean, this is really the impetus of this happening is women, women of color, that have made this possible.
Yeah, in the local community, and like that's what I want people to do. Is like everyone's kind of like the interviews I've done. People are like, "Oh, it's international, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, but like really, I'm focused on my community and doing what I can without like to liberate others. Not like I'm trying to like save people or like do a charity thing. It's really about like liberating people, and that involves like awareness of the Newtown Farmers Market, number one. And having music that is going to reflect, the history of the park, MLK, the message of peace, justice, and mindfulness is right there. There is a bigger factor in here, and that is systemic racism. And it's that the world and the society that we live in is designed for this to happen, for anti-blackness to happen, for racism against people of color. It's all designed, so it's not like one person is going to change what's happening or one event is going to change what's happening. But collectively, as we change our consciousness, we can start to dismantle those systems. But you have to be aware of how they exist and where they are influenced in your own personal life to be like, okay, this is what's happening, and that way when we live our lives at our jobs, say you're a real estate agent, you're just, aware of the history of redlining and how that affects people, and it's like you can just chip away at it. But like, so a big system like this has existed, and the whole mindset for, hundreds of years, it's bigger than individuals, but we also have to play our part. So it's like, it's the balance of individual work versus, dismantling systemic racism, is something that I want people to be aware of. Sure. You can find us on Facebook, Modern Marimba, Instagram, Modern Marimba, modernmarimba.org is our website. And the event starts on Saturday, December 19th at 3 p.m. So you can bring your lawn chairs. We're going to have hula hoops set up that are spaced 12 feet apart. And the vendors for the Newtown Farmers Market will be there, and they'll be selling everything. Yeah, so boiled peanuts will be there for after or before. Oh, we'll also have masks for people who forget and hand sanitizers. So we're trying to do our best to make this really safe for everybody, because there is also that anxiety about being in public spaces. But we're doing the best that we can to be safe.
Awesome. Again, I can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to this event. It's coming up really quick, and I really am thankful to be partnering with you with this. And thank you for taking the time today. Thank you so very much.